Hi everyone, it's Karen from the Historical Society of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. It's midway through January of 2021, and right about this time, most of us are wondering when we are going to be vaccinated for the coronavirus. So last month, a lot of different companies started saying that their vaccines were ready to go, and different countries, including the US, started approving that the vaccines are now safe. So we're in the midst of that rollout. And it got me thinking that Montgomery County actually has a relatively interesting history connected to not only medical care, but also dealing with epidemics, pandemics, as well as different doctors and organizations that have been involved in making vaccines throughout our history. So today I thought it might be a relevant topic to talk about some of the history regarding epidemics, vaccines, and whatnot in connection to our county. So before we get too far into that, I'd like to actually introduce you to my soon-to-be sister-in-law, Morgan Packer. She's currently studying for her PhD up in Boston. She's getting her degree in chemistry, and she was kind enough to give us a brief description of what exactly is a vaccine and how does it work. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Morgan Packer.
Hello everyone from Montgomery County, PA and beyond. My name is Morgan and I am a PhD candidate at Northeastern University in Boston studying chemistry. And I'm going to be working with Karen today to explain a little bit about what vaccines are, where they came from, and how they work. So a vaccine is basically a tool that scientists and medical professionals work together to develop to arm up our bodies and our immune systems against a particular bacteria or virus. And although the science and technology underlying vaccines and what specifically makes them work can be very complex and very different from vaccine to vaccine, essentially they all work in the same way. Some way or another, the vaccine introduces some tiny portion of a virus or bacteria, enough to activate and alert our immune system to do something about it, but not nearly enough to actually give us the disease that that virus or bacteria is associated with. And once our immune system takes care of whatever's in that vaccine, our body remembers what happened. So essentially, our immune system prints out some wanted posters saying, hey guys, if you ever see this again, this is how you take care of it. Don't let it enter our body. Don't let it make us sick. So if that foreign invader ever does dare to take on our immune system again, our cells know exactly just how to handle it and win the battle against it.
Thank you, Morgan, for giving us that brief explanation of what a vaccine is and how it works. Now, from the historian side of things, those of you who may have ever researched the history of vaccines probably know the name Edward Jenner, a British scientist who was known or is known for helping develop vaccinations for smallpox. What most people don't realize is that although what we know as vaccines today, where you get a shot in the arm to protect you against any number of diseases, such immunizations, although drastically different, date way beyond Jenner's lifetime. So, at least to my knowledge, at the very least, as far back as ancient China, there are different records of people using various styles of immunization type of things to help protect their population from various diseases and ailments from that time. So while the techniques were very different back then, the general idea of, or the general knowledge that you could actually train the body to recognize a foreign invader as something that needs to be fought so that you don't get sick and die. This is not a new concept. It's been around for a very long time. And as scientists have researched, they get better and better at figuring out how to defend us against these foreign invaders. So turning now to more local history of vaccines and epidemics, early colonists in Philadelphia unfortunately were exposed to a great number of epidemics. So things like cholera and yellow fever swept through the city quite often. And actually in 1793 there was a very bad yellow fever epidemic, and records indicate roughly 10% of the population did die from that actual epidemic. And as a result of it, they decided they really needed to build a quarantine center. So Philadelphia built the Lazaretto Quarantine Center to basically check everyone coming into the city. So whether by foot or by land, by sea, everyone entering the city of Philadelphia had to be checked for diseases like smallpox, yellow fever, cholera, what have you, because they were trying desperately to avoid another deadly outbreak of such diseases like yellow fever from happening again. And what's interesting about this particular quarantine center, aside from it being local, it still stands to this day. So it is now a historic landmark. So if you're ever in the neighborhood of South Philadelphia near the I-95 corridor, it's right next to the Philadelphia International Airport. There are very few quarantine centers dating back to the 1800s that are still standing to this day, so definitely take the time to go see this historic local piece of history. Now in Montgomery County, I'm not aware of us having any quarantine centers that still stand or anything like that, but if you have recently seen some of our blog posts and our most recent exhibit on Montgomery County hospitals, you may be aware of Rivercrest Preventorium, which was in Montclair, Montgomery County. Now, this preventorium was designed to help people recover from tuberculosis, which back in the 19th century was a very serious and often deadly illness that people could contract. And this center was basically designed to give you fresh air, get you away from the city, and try to help nurse you back to health. And I will provide a link to our blog and our online exhibition so that you can actually see some of the pictures of this preventorium and actually listen to or see some of our stories of some of the people who actually spent some time there. And today, while the original structures are not as they were, it is now the Rivercrest Golf Club, so it is still around in some form or another to this day. And lastly, we're going to look at some of the connections to Montgomery County and the history of making vaccines for various illnesses. Now, one of the larger employers in the medical field in Montgomery County is the company Merck. Now, Merck was originally founded in 1891 in New York City. However, it merged with a bunch of different companies over time, and it finally merged with Sharp and Dom in 1953, which then brought some of their operations and research to West Point, Montgomery County, where they still have a laboratory to this day. And after coming to Montgomery County, you started to see a lot of research around creating various vaccines. So they worked together with a lot of different scientists, and they came up with some of these following vaccines. They came up with the MMR triple shot you would get, so that was for measles, mumps, and rubella. They also came up with pneumonia vaccines, hepatitis B vaccines, as well as Gardasil, which is a more recent vaccine for HPV. Now, in addition to helping create some of these vaccines, they also developed a lot of other treatments for diseases that maybe didn't have a cure, or it wasn't possible to create a vaccine for it. So they help make things like statins. They're very well known for their work in cardiology. They've developed a lot of different ways to help manage high blood pressure and maintain a healthy cardiovascular system. They've also helped create things like Singulair for people who struggle with asthma. And in some of the recent Ebola outbreaks in Africa, they even sent some of their specialists with treatments over there to help that local population. In 2009, Merck actually became known as being the second largest pharmaceutical company by revenue in the United States. And according to documents from Montgomery County in the year 2020, Merck has been announced to have been the largest single employer in our county for the year 2020. And lastly, for this video, although Merck and all the other pharmaceuticals in Montgomery County did not actually make the current approved COVID-19 vaccines, one of the two companies, Pfizer, although they're not headquartered here, they do actually have an office branch in Collegeville, PA. So that's just another connection we have to vaccine history. Even though it wasn't necessarily invented here, we do have a connection to that vaccine as well. For those of you that want to learn more about the recent coronavirus vaccines that have been distributed, I encourage you to talk to your doctor. You can also go to the CDC website, and they should be able to give you whatever answers to the questions you may have. Funding for this video has been provided by the Pennsylvania Humanities Council and the National Endowment for the Humanities as part of the Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security Act of 2020.